The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
What time is it?
Ladies and gentlemen, the Undisputed Era has arrived.
You have the 25 days of Christmas. Impact's going to have the 25 days of releases.
I send it you to deletion! Yeah!
It's hashtag Alpha versus Omega.
Let's just say hashtag aroused.
No, you're gonna step in that ring and you're gonna be looking at me eye to eye and you're gonna realize you ain't got a chance.
Thank God we don't have to talk about it anymore because she got that cancer out of there.
Sean stole my answer. I'm just glad we don't have to talk about this anymore.
And that's not an insult, that is just a fact of life.
This is a match that I try to play the situation. You know, how would this match play out from start to finish? I try to visualize it over and over and over again. How do you fight your friends? How do you fight your brothers? Especially when there's this misunderstanding that you don't care about them and you want to teach them otherwise. At the end of the day, this was a match for our fans. I didn't want to disrespect the Young Bucks by giving anything less than 100% efforts. And really, that's what I gave. And I feel broken, both physically and emotionally. I had this fantasy, perhaps, where all four of us would be standing in the middle of the ring, arms raised. Didn't matter who the winner was. And even though the Golden Lovers won, that's not even the part that matters. I suppose if the fans are happy, I'm happy. There's always that part of me. The businessman in me is happy. What a great crowd today. You guys were awesome. But I can't lie. There's a part in me that feels kind of dead. And I don't know where we go from here. I don't know where we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling to the max.
And your hosts, Gary Vaughan, Sean Garmer, and Paul Leeser.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another great episode of Wrestling to the Max. This is episode 292, part 1. And of course, we are brought to you by the W2M Network. Yes, I am your host, Gary Vaughan, and along with me is not Sean Garmer, is not Paul Leeser. It is Mr. Brandon Biskobing.
The sixth man strikes again.
Yeah, there you go. 6 minutes. Oh man, it is so crazy. Things have been wild. It's just. I'm gonna give people a funny story really quickly here. Paul's been busy and things are going on with him right now, so he's taking a break at the moment. And Sean, of course, was with me and Brandon, and we were getting on, and we were about to get things rolling. And right when we were about to start the show, Sean's internet goes away. So Brandon and I are sitting there like, well, we thought we were going to start the show. And then all of a sudden we're like, Sean's not even online. What's up with this? So, Brandon, it is left to me and you.
He was even running the intro and they cut out mid intro for him.
No.
And I'm one-upping myself this week. I'm pulling off the quadfecta now.
the quadfecta. Yeah, man. Well, hey, I am just so glad for you, Brandon. You are the fourth co-host of this show, so you've definitely done us a lot of favors and definitely been a big help for the review shows because you've been on every single one lately, and that's great. I mean, you do a good job, and no one else better that could do it. But now you're doing Wrestling to the Max with me tonight, and I'm super stoked, man. We've got a great show in store for everyone. We're going to be talking some wrestling news. We're going to be talking about some new belts added to WWE. And now we've already talked about the North American stuff with NXT. That's right. We've also talked about some other things, but these are two brand new belts that WWE's looking at adding. We'll also be talking a little bit about some other WWE news that you'll find very, very interesting. And getting into some New Japan, they got another big show coming over to the U.S., so we'll be talking about that one, along with some Dragon Gate news as well. So interesting news topics to talk about tonight. Plus, Brandon, we are going to be covering Strong Style Evolve 2018. That is going to be so much fun to talk about. So we are going to get into that and all the good stuff that involves that stuff and much, much more. And by the way, Brandon, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have the card for Strong Style Evolve?
Yes, I do. I can pull it up.
Okay, perfect. So I am going to let Brandon hopefully help me out with that. Hopefully, Brandon, I'm going to let him run down the card for us tonight, and I'm going to be breaking down these news topics for us and just kind of having a fun time. You know, we're going to roll down this show very informal, no big drops or anything like that. No, we're just going to have a good time. I'm really stoked about this. Just to make sure we kind of have it clear for anybody who's listening now for the first time or, you know, maybe the second or third time, you just don't know all the details of what we do here. Of course, you know, we like to do all the review shows that if you have not heard, we are on the W2M network. So just go check out the Raw review, the SmackDown Live review, 205 Live review, and the NXT review. They're all Wrestling to the Max shows, and make sure you go and subscribe to W2M Network to get all those great shows, plus this one you're listening to tonight. So make sure you do that. If once you subscribe, you never have to go looking for it. It's always going to be right there. So when you get in your car, you put on a podcast. It's not like you're having to type all this in and find us, or it's already right there in your dock. Whatever you use, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, heck, I mean, if you're using maybe YouTube, it's always there. It's never a problem for you to find. And then when you hit those 5 stars on the rating, you let everybody else know about us. That just does us a little favor. And of course, when you give us a review, that gives us an understanding of what you want from us, what things you like, you dislike, and all the above. So please go do that. And also, while you're at it, go check out W2Mnet.com as well as our friends at 411mania.com and lastwordonprowrestling.com. All those sites do a great job. We are really happy to be partnered with each and every one of them. So make sure you do that for us. But why delay any further? I know I'm just kind of going off the cuff tonight.
You there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
That was weird.
Okay. I probably had some kind of weird drop out. Tonight's just a weird. Hopefully the internet doesn't decide to kill our show, Brandon.
Yeah,
hopefully
really.
we have a show. So here we are. Let's go ahead and jump into this thing, though, Brandon. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. Let's start with some of this news. And what I found very interesting reading the news this week was WB is considering on adding 2 brand new belts to their litany of titles. And those 2 belts would be tag team title belts for the women's division. And they're considering possibly doing this around SummerSlam time. I'm intrigued. I don't know about you, Brandon, but I think it would be wise, especially for all the focus the women's division's been getting now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely intriguing. It's definitely something that, with the expansion of the roster, especially with, I'm assuming we'll get some more call-ups, post-Mania for the women, and with the Mae Young Classic, you would think some of those girls would be getting more focus on NXT, and thus, some of the older ones may be getting called up. But at the same time, especially, I mean, there may be a few teams I can think of right now, but especially we were talking about it on the Raw review earlier, the stuff between Sasha and Bayley right now, there aren't, I mean, I'm sure if they're doing it after SummerSlam, they have plenty of time to build up teams, but there aren't all that many, very, distinctive teams right now in the women's division. You've got the iconic duo in NXT. I'm sure they'd be called up if there is going to be this NXT tag title thing. Women's tag title thing. But they definitely have to build it up more. And a bigger issue, is, well, especially, I know that they're kind of fading away from the brand split now with them combining the pay-per-views and everything. But, are they just going to have one? Are they going to have two tag titles? I just don't feel like there's quite enough women on the roster quite yet for them to really have a strong tag division. And they don't really give them enough time yet. I mean, it's definitely getting better than the Divas era, but, it's still, they're only getting, 1 or 2 segments per show.
You're right. And, thinking about this whole situation, I mean, really, let's be honest, they've already had to have 2 women's world heavyweight titles, right? Mm-hmm. One for Raw, one for SmackDown. Adding tag belts. Well, how do you do that? I mean, are we just going to have one show where we have a world title holder, and then one show we have the tag team titles held, we get rid of one of the titles? Or do we have, do we actually split it into 4 different titles, or 4 titles where we have 2 on one brand, 2 on the other? That just seems a little overkill. And how they determined who gets a majority of the women's stuff, that's the big question. You would assume Raw because it's a longer show. There's just so much involved in that. I think it's a great idea. Don't get me wrong, and especially for the fact that they're about to go back to dual branded pay-per-views. I think that's another reason why they're even considering this, that they don't have to worry about so much. But I really feel like if you have a tag team for the women, let's be honest, they have to float. They have to be on SmackDown. They have to be on Raw. I feel like that's got to take place. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, and you can't really have everything you need to have take place. It's a great idea for this reason, too. Yes, they have those definitely, big rosters now for the women, at least. A lot more women that people usually get a chance to even see. But we also have people from NXT coming up. Like, let's just take, for example, Billie Kay and Peyton Royce. When they eventually come up to the main roster, they would be perfect candidates to hold those tag belts, right? Mm-hmm. They would mean a lot to them. They would bring a lot of charisma and just do a lot of good things for them. But you've got to get down to the business of how are you going to present them? Do you have time to present them? You brought that point up. Do you actually have the time to do it along with all the other things you're trying to do? I don't know. It's a big question because they haven't yet to prove us that they can do much outside of the heavyweight titles.
Yeah, I don't think so at all. And also, not to mention, like we mentioned, this is my own personal opinion. And I think a lot of people disagree with me, but I don't like how they're just basically, after only a year and a half, pretty much going down the path, and a lot of people said, oh, you're jumping the gun, you're looking too far into this, but it feels to me that they're starting to axe the whole brand split already.
Yeah, and that does seem like something that is also coming into play here, and I don't love it. I've kind of become accustomed to having Raw be its own entity, right?
Yeah.
I've kind of been accustomed to SmackDown doing its own thing, and it's felt very good, very fluid. It's made sense, and now that you're going to possibly get away from that, and you're going to melt the pot back together, it just sounds like there's going to be a lot of people left in the cold.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not good because there's a lot of talent that's just sitting there waiting for them to use. And I worry for guys like Ty Dillinger, who super talented, have a lot to offer the company, but they just don't have time for him. That means, guess what? He comes around, sits on the roster for 2 years, and they say, go back to the Indies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good
And
deal.
I have a feeling that that's going to be coming pretty soon. I think I hate to say it, but I have a feeling that they're going to test out this whole dual branded pay-per-view thing for a year. It's going to flop as we all expect. It's going to basically be what we got back in 2011 when they started doing that again, or 2010, excuse me. And and they're going to be like, okay, we're recombining the rosters again, and as a result, you're going to get one of those mega cuts, and get Ty will probably get cut, Rusev, the Heath Slater and Rhino, a bunch of guys that are lower down on the card that aren't really being used right now.
Yeah. And I just hate to hear that or see that happen, or whatever it is. That's just a big bummer for me. And you're right. I mean, guys like Rusev that the crowd legitimately loves, they're behind on a normal basis. I mean, this isn't just like, hey, this arena loves Rusev and this arena doesn't. It seems like every single arena you go to is chanting Rusev Day. They're really enjoying it. They want to go with that. And then you mix the brands, and then guess what? Rusev Day is, well, on the pre-show of some pay-per-view, and then maybe gets a segment on Raw or SmackDown, and then you just never see much of him. It's just, it's not a great thing. And I'll be, once going back to the tag titles for the women, once again, I think it's kind of a cool idea. I'm not going to crap on it because I think, honestly, it would be neat to see, the women have that opportunity to have tag titles, to have something else for them. But if you go dual branded, and then you get all the stuff going on and you mix it all back together, you've only got to have one world heavyweight title, if you ask me, for them, and you've only got to have one tag team to have the title. So I think that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, my other issue, it's still early. They would definitely have time if they do decide to go this route, but where are the teams coming from? There really isn't. I mean, you can say, maybe Becky and Charlotte and Naomi, maybe Becky and Naomi be a team. Before what's happened since Royal Rumble, I mean, we kind of saw it coming, but, especially after Royal Rumble and especially after tonight, what's, the biggest team that I would have said, oh, they're a shoo-in to win the titles would have been Sasha and Bayley, but, that's obviously flew the coop. So, where are these teams going to come from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. It really, really is. And they would really have to work on that before they even thought about introducing this. So there's a lot of work to be done there. Let's be honest. I mean, we can't kid ourselves, Brandon. If they're going to add this and they're making it all the way to SummerSlam, that means that they know they have to work on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I think that's the direction. If it happens,
yes,
that's going to be the reason why it's so far away, and for the reason why they're going to have to build some stuff up. And we'll see. I mean, after WrestleMania, it's an all new ball game. The whole thing is going to be completely in a new direction for the fact that they're focusing on their pay-per-view situation, and they're doing some other things. So let's see how this all shakes out. Now, in this recent news week, we've also had some basically some interesting things coming down with the Hall of Fame inductions. We got the word that Edge and Christian will be inducting the Dudleys last week, and now we're hearing that it is a confirmed situation where we have Paul Heyman being the guy that will induct Bill Goldberg at this year's Hall of Fame. Not my first pick, not because I don't like Paul Heyman, not because I don't like Bill Goldberg, just kind of an odd mixture. I kind of think that, the Dudleys should have been having Paul Heyman, but hey, this is what we got here. Why are they so firm on Paul Heyman being the guy for Goldberg? I don't understand it.
I think the only thing that I can even think of, which kind of, short sells Goldberg's accomplishments prior to this, is that they're pushing, they're pushing to, the newer fans who may not, I still don't know how you wouldn't know Goldberg, but so be it. I think they're basically saying, within WWE, his biggest feud was against Brock Lesnar, both in 2003 and then, just last year. So I think that's why they're doing it. That's the only explanation that I can think of.
Yeah, and I understand that. And they probably, honestly, wanted a big name for a guy like Goldberg because he's probably going to be one of the bigger headlines, right?
Yeah.
If not the headline. And I think that they wanted somebody that can really sell Goldberg, especially to what you said, the people that don't really know him, and for the critics. Because if there's anybody that can sell you on, buying ice in the winter, it's definitely Paul Heyman, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's there for. He's there to sell Bill Goldberg. He's there to sell the people that hate Goldberg on why you should love him. So that's the deal. I mean, I'm happy with it for that instance, but on the other, I mean, I still think Eric Bischoff would have been the perfect candidate.
Oh, definitely.
I just think it makes more sense, but who knows? Maybe Eric's going to be fishing that weekend.
Or have someone have DDP or someone else, who he faced back in WCW come in and induct him.
David Arquette.
Oh, God, no.
No. I had to say it. I had to throw it in there.
I know. Whenever I watch Scream with Tori, I always make fun of him whenever he pops up on the screen. I'm like, oh, hey, look, it's WCW World Champion David Arquette.
I know, because wrestling isn't fake! Oh, sorry, I always got to say that, too. Ready to Rumble, still not a bad movie in my opinion. But let's talk about something other than the Hall of Fame and David Arquette. Let's go ahead and mention something that I kind of feel like is really interesting for many reasons, and that is this whole UK title situation, right? When we've seen Pete Dunne hold it, and Tyler Bate was the first one to hold it, but, it didn't take long for Pete Dunne to become the guy. Well, as we sit here, we question ourselves many, many times, especially every time we see Pete Dunne. What are they doing with him? Like, what does the UK title really mean? Does it mean anything? Is it just a nice prop, or are they going to do something with it? Do we really know? Well, it seems like WB might be refocusing a little bit more on this whole UK division, and the only reason we're kind of speculating on this is because they signed 5 of their UK guys back in, and these are lucrative deals that they made, right? So these aren't just like, hey, play patty cake with us for just a little bit of money. No, apparently they're paying these guys a pretty penny to stick around with WB. We got Pete Dunne, of course, Tyler Bate. We also have Wolfgang Young along with Trent Seven and Mark Andrews. All those guys are definitely going to be some of the bigger stars of the UK, at least for WB. And they also went out and they made sure that they kind of got a few, well, actually 2 other guys. They got Zach Gibson and Joe Coffey also. So it seems like they may be refocusing on this thing. At least the talent that they got is really good. It seems like that they could be making their moves to, in the future, still think about making their own weekly show for the UK. Don't know what's going to happen, Brandon, but I love the signings of these guys and making sure they stick around WWE.
Yeah, I saw a rumor yesterday saying that they're back in talks about creating a UK show. All I'm going to say about it at this point is I'll believe it when I see it. Because we heard this for how many months in the beginning or in the middle of last year, shortly after the UK tournament happened. And then nothing came of it. And the UK title became, a de facto secondary title for NXT. And, now with the North American title, that's basically seemingly replacing it as the secondary title for NXT. But still no UK show. I'll just believe it when I see it. That's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. There really isn't a whole lot to really think about what they're doing until they prove it. And you're exactly right. I don't blame you for feeling that way. I don't blame anybody else for feeling that way. I think WB likes to kind of get these plans together, put things in play. And then when one little thing doesn't work out the way they like it, they just get scrapped, right? And that's the situation here of they weren't really happy with some of the things, so they've kind of put it on the back burner. Well, now you've got these guys sitting around and you've got a title kind of sitting around not doing a whole lot. So that's why we've been seeing the UK title being defended on NXT. That's why we're seeing these guys, kind of make their appearances around the country at live events and things like that to kind of, really basically hold the fort down for the UK guys until they get something going. But like you said, don't know if it's going to happen. There's no guarantee. What we do know is that Pete Dunne, one of my guys, is going to be sticking around for a little bit longer, and I'm really happy about that because I'll sit down and watch him on NXT anytime. I don't care. I don't have to have him have on his own UK show to see him. Heck, I'll even enjoy if he comes back to Monday Night Raw and does something. So that guy, and of course the other guys we mentioned, Mark Andrews, a wonderful talent. My God. So amazing. I'd love to see him on 205 Live. So these guys, hey, if they don't have their own show, they'll definitely be a big hand for WB in the long run.
But I feel like a big part of these contracts and the way they're handling the UK guys isn't so much where they really have a plan or have a place for these guys. It's kind of just, we don't want competition in the UK, so we're going to assign you to these lucrative deals just to make sure that you're under our control. But we're not actually going to do anything with you.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing. I hate that. It really does kind of make you feel like that these guys are just kind of sitting around and really losing out on opportunities around the world, right? Yeah. Because there's plenty of other places that would love to have them and use them on a regular basis, but with WB kind of pinning them down, they know what they're doing, but they're also kind of, to me, giving those guys a little bit of a slight because they could definitely be making their name known even more around the world. And, I think that's why let's be honest, we're seeing them actually go over there and wrestle at ICW and other places. WB's giving them their blessing to wrestle some of the promotions that they're kind of partnered up with.
I mean, honestly, the best option for WWE in terms of if you're worried about, the cost and if you're worried about, creating your own show and everything, just basically make, because I think ICW, while they're not technically under contract with WWE, they have some sort of partnership with WWE now, correct?
Yeah, they do. And it's not really anything, I would say financially, but I think it is something where they're making partnerships that these guys can go out and still wrestle when they're not on WWE shows.
Yeah, but make a more formal partnership with ICW, put some cameras, maybe, have Nigel go back over there and do commentary, maybe, sign one of ICW's commentators for your own, under your own umbrella, put some cameras in there, and just record it and put it on the network. It doesn't cost that much. I believe they record their own shows already, correct?
Yeah, they think they do. I mean, I don't know what kind of quality they are, but I'm pretty sure they record their own stuff.
I mean, but that's the thing. The fan base that is going to watch that show does not care about quality. It's going to be a niche audience, but I would think WWE already knows that. So just do it. And that way you have the UK show without having to go through all of this process. And, you stop the stalling.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I think that's the same thing that they were considering doing on the network, but they never got around to it, right? That's exactly what they were wanting to do, was kind of showcase other promotions and kind of play that game. But it seems like they've kind of reneged on that and thought to themselves, well, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we shouldn't in cost.
And if I remember correctly, I mean, I haven't watched any of it at all, but based on what I've heard, and if you've watched ICW, tell me if I'm right or wrong, but doing that and having ICW just stay the way it is would kill two birds with one stone in terms of fan bases that you're trying to attract to the network. Not only are you getting the UK product, but also they do a lot of hardcore stuff. They are like a lot like ECW was. So you're getting that hardcore deathmatch crowd as well as the UK crowd. So you're killing two birds with one stone with one show.
No, yeah, I'm right there. Yeah, I agree. And I think that really it's something that would be, just really intelligent to do, but it's all about money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the buck stops, is because they're not really interested in paying anybody else besides themselves for the rights to anything. And that's why we've seen them with the way they handle their business, when it comes to music or showing clips from any other promotion. Usually it's a deal where they're not really forking out a lot of money, if they do fork out the money. And they, make trades and do things like that where they're not really financially strapped to any of the promotion. And that's probably why we're seeing that, even though it would be best for the fans. It really would be, right? Mm-hmm. Just that's not the way they think. And I get it from the financial aspect, but from the fan aspect,
but that's why WWE is kind of stagnant right now, is that, mm-hmm. I've said this for years, and it's the truth. When it comes to entertainment, things are always better when they're more independently run and they're focused on the entertainment over the bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it is. And, I once again, I think it'd be awesome. I would hope that they would even consider that. But at the time being, this is the way WWE does business. Mm-hmm. And that's just what we have to get used to and have to understand. But at least they do have some partnerships. That's what I'm happy about. That's a really important thing, if you ask me, especially if they want to dive into adding more talent, getting involved with some of the more indie, style type guys they want to recruit down the line. This is the best way to do it. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about someone else that we haven't really gotten to talk about in a while, and that's because, well, let's be honest, he hasn't really done so much. But, not only that, it seems that he is injured. That's right. Apollo has injured himself at a live event recently, and they're not really sure what it is. We're getting rumors that it could be a quad, also that he blew out a knee. So we don't know really what's going on, but Apollo is going to be hobbled, and it could be for a little while. I don't know. I like I said, Apollo's a good talent. I like him, but sadly, I feel worrisome for him because I don't know how many people are going to even really remember he's around in a month or two.
Yeah. He's gonna get the if they wanted to, they could they could use that to his benefit if they still had faith in him and they did want to do something with him. They could kind of do like what they did with Neville when he came back from his injury, where he's like, you all forgot about me, and have a heel turn with him. But I just, with the way he's been used lately, and with the way he's been used throughout his whole main roster career, I have a bad feeling that we'll be seeing him on other forms of media soon enough.
Yeah, you know what? I think you're right, and I don't want you to be right, but I think you are, because I feel bad. I think the guy, he's just super talented, and he has a lot to offer. It's just let's just think about this. He's not been given anything that has really helped him. He just has not. No opportunities that have really given him the opportunity to shine like he needs to shine. That's on them, though. That's not really on Apollo. I feel like Apollo has brought it every time he's in the ring. I feel like he has given his heart, but WB just does not really feel like that they can grasp what he's about. So if it's not there, hey, let it be somewhere else. That's just my personal opinion.
Ring of Honor.
Yeah, hey, he would do great in Ring of Honor, I think. I think that he could even be in a great tag team if he wanted to. So, but yeah, so you got that going on for him, and you've got, a lot of other situations when it comes to, having guys or gals injured that also affects everybody around them. And who knows with titles worldwide? I mean, what do they got? Dana Brooke now? I mean,
that's it.
So I think
technically they. Well, I don't know anymore because, 205 has distanced itself from everything else, but I think technically Akira Tozawa is still part of them.
You know what? I didn't even think about Akira Tozawa. But you're right. He probably is still considered one of their guys. But let's also think for the fact that WB's kind of put him around just the cruiserweights and not really even brought him up. And I don't think that now that he is with Hideo Itami that they're going to bring that up again.
No,
just don't see that taking place.
Yeah.
So, and that's better for them, honestly. Let's be honest.
Yes.
That's a wiser decision. So. Well, let's jump into some New Japan. Let's talk about this really quickly because this is something that's going to be really interesting and great for the U.S. New Japan has announced that they are going to be coming back to the U.S. and not very far in the future. July 7th, on my birthday this year. This is awesome. Wish they would buy me a ticket for my birthday. The G1 special is coming back to the States. It will be at the Cow Palace in San Francisco, folks. That's the next time. You better go buy your tickets if you live in the U.S. It's going to be really, really cool. I mean, I think that's great that they're already announcing another big show.
And not only are they announcing another big show, but each time they've come, it's been at a bigger arena. The Cow Palace used to be an NBA arena. So it's not like, they're going to, small little bingo halls or small little, venues that Ring of Honor normally goes to. They're selling out legitimate arenas. And that's a good sign if they ever do decide to truly expand. And I've been saying it for a while. I said it after the first U.S. show. It may not be as consistent as WWE. They'd have to do a lot of work and certainly would have to get on a much better channel than Access because, no one has access, so you have to jump through hoops to get it. But, with that being said, if they could get a legitimate TV deal and figure out a way to where, you have shows, it would be a little trickier for them because a lot of fans would want to be seeing the top guys who, and the top Japanese guys like a Tanahashi, like a Suzuki, who may not necessarily want to travel back and forth so much. But if they could figure out a way to make a weekly show, or figure out a way to do something, they could be a legitimate competitor and a legitimate threat to WWE and get WWE off their butts and make them actually work.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And that would be something to see. I think, when you're looking at this situation, I think that you've got some really great potential here. And, WWE definitely, they have to be a little bit on their heels here because they see that, man, New Japan is not backing off.
No.
And they've got to understand that people are really buying into what New Japan's bringing to the table. And these shows are selling out so quick, they don't even know what to do. Like, there's people that have been willing to spend as much money as they can spend to get into these shows, and then they're left in the cold because, well, it's just sold out too fast. So, it's really, really interesting to see, the way that this has kind of evolved and how everything has kind of come to fruition. Just last year, we were talking about how exciting it was that New Japan was even going to do a show here.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're getting 2 shows in the States in 2018. We're getting a dojo in LA from New Japan. It's moving and fast forward, but it doesn't seem that it's losing any momentum. It seems that it's picking up momentum, if you ask me. So that's great for New Japan. It's great for wrestling because, trust me, it's been a long while since WWE's had any kind of legitimate person or promotion or anybody come to the table and say, hey, can you match what we're doing over here?
Mm-hmm.
So really, really excited about that. Once again, that is going to be taking place on my birthday. So if you feel froggy and you want to buy me a nice gift, go ahead and buy that ticket or 2. So.
I'll come with you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Brandon and I just buy us tickets. And also don't forget to include the airfare.
Yes, of course. You would be a
But
little easier than I would.
yeah, New York's a little bit more difficult price wise compared to Texas to California. It's not
Not too
too
bad.
yeah. Well, let's go ahead and jump into one last thing before we move on and talk some strong style evolved. Let's get into the streaming service that is going to be out April 1st. It is, of course, Dragon Gate who is bringing this to the table. I mean, I don't know really if how or what there's going to be, doing. I know they're going to have a VOD service and some other things, but what really brings some interest here to me is that it seems like everybody is really getting on board with having their own networks. We saw All Japan kind of come out with theirs recently. This is Dragon Gate's version of it. It's good, especially if you're a wrestling fan. But like we talk about all the time on this show, Brandon, how many promotions are just going to have their own streaming service, and how can anybody just afford every single one that they have?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, but I mean, to be fair, for any wrestling fan anyway, even without the streaming services, there are just so many promotions that you kind of have to make a choice of, what promotions am I going to be following the most? And as a result, that also includes what promotions am I going to be buying their streaming services. So, like, for myself, the big four that I follow, the fourth one's a far fourth, but I mean that's more so because it's harder to follow them. But the big four that I follow are WWE, New Japan, Ring of Honor, and CZW. And then, if like there's something big going on at another promotion, I'll check it out and whatnot. I want to try to get into House of Hardcore, but again, another issue. The issue with that is that it's much harder to follow and find online. I've seen interviews and people talking about how the internet has really brought wrestling from around the world so much closer. Even 10 years ago, it would have been near impossible to watch a New Japan show.
I mean, it's just one of those things. You would never really be in a situation where it'd just be simple, right? You'd always have to be on the lookout all the time. Tape trading would still be something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just a situation that we're looking at now. Is we are an information-filled society that the technology allows us to look all the way around the world in live streaming time. Right, I mean, right at the moment it's happening, we can watch a live stream and see it in Australia.
I mean, there is still the obvious issue of the time differential, which is my big problem with New Japan. But those issues, you can work around.
Yeah,
and it actually makes it kind of easier where if there was a pay-per-view that you could somehow get on TV or something from Japan or whatnot, you'd have to watch it live or else it was gone. Whereas now I've been catching up on New Japan like crazy for the Strong Style Evolve show, and it's so simple.
Yeah. It's just so nice that you're able to sit down and have it all at your fingertips and not have to, like we said, go and search it out and pray that you can find the next one that's available, or you skip an episode or you have to skip a pay-per-view because it's just not around. No one has it, So this is good news.
And one thing that I'm gonna get, I want to give a lot of credit to New Japan for, and I hope while the other promotions in Japan aren't nearly as big and whatnot in the U.S., so they may not have this issue as much, but and I hope they continue this, and hopefully they expand it to where they have it during the in-ring promos as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that they finally brought translations to the backstage interviews post match. So now you're not just skipping to the English guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you too, buddy. I mean, looking at that, I mean, it definitely helps me. I'm not much of the person that's going to be, just sitting there, just kind of waiting and then just kind of listening to the, a language I don't understand. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, it's cool. I'm a big fan of a lot of the talents, but if I don't understand Japanese, I'm skipping ahead. So that's great that they translate it and they give those opportunities for the fans that don't speak Japanese, a chance to stay involved and not
really
skip things
understand what's going on.
Exactly. You're exactly right. So they get the well-rounded experience. So, but yeah, I mean, really great for Dragon Gate to have their own streaming service, and I'm sure we'll be announcing more streaming services as time goes by. I mean, it seems like every week we have a new one to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's pretty much quick hits for everybody this week, at least until our next episode on Thursday. But now we have to do something that basically I have been waiting a long time to do. It's only been since Saturday night, but it feels like it's been forever. I've been ready to do this for a while, and that is talk about New Japan's Strong Style Evolve 2018. So, Brandon, let's break down this card. Let's tell the folks what we thought about this show.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, man. Well, you're going to run this down for us.
So you just want me to go tell you each match, and then we'll talk about it?
That's it, sir. Okay. Just break it down for us.
So the first match, we had a 6-man tag between Roppongi 3K, Sho and Yo, and Rocky Romero against, I believe they had a team name, but I forget. They did have a team name.
SoCal Uncensored.
Okay, right. SoCal Uncensored. Scorpio Sky, Christopher Daniels, and Frankie Kazarian. Sho got the pin on Scorpio Sky at 11 minutes. So Roppongi 3K continues their run.
And they should, right? Yes. I mean, they have been on par. They've been pretty hot as of late, and I love this tag. This 3-man team is one of my favorites right now in New Japan. I know there's lots of great, trios teams, but I love this team. Roppongi 3K is so energetic. They have so much to bring, and they were up against SoCal Uncensored, who's got 2 veterans, 2 guys in Kazarian and Daniels, who they're great at what they do, and they showcase themselves in this match very well. And Scorpio Skies did his job too. But it's just a different pace with Roppongi 3K. Sho and Yo, they continue to get better. You're watching them evolve. And I really feel like in this match, they just put on a great performance. For what I saw here, it wasn't anything that blew you away. But, in New Japan, they have their own format. And usually the first matches aren't always, let's be honest, they're not matches that are going to light the world on fire. They're good, but they don't always have to start hard. WB kind of has their own thing where they like to start something really hot and then cool down, hot, cool down. I think this one was good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, this was a decent match. I love how Rocky always seems to have good themes to come out to.
Oh, yes. It's brilliant. I mean, just the musical stuff they have. Oh, it's so awesome. I love that song. So...
You want to go on to the next match?
Yeah, unless you have anything else to say. I mean, I wish I had a lot to say about that match.
Yeah.
I know people
for those of you who don't really watch New Japan all that much, New Japan, like Gary was saying, they start off with a lot of 6 or 8-man tag matches that are just kind of filler matches. Mm-hmm. So they're not really, that big of matches. I mean, they're still good. They're still great technical matches, but, they're nothing to write home about, really.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is, once again, people have to understand this was more about showing off for Roppongi 3K. If that's what this is about. That's why you had Frankie Kazarian and Daniels as, the 2 guys, especially Scorpio Sky is added in there, but those 2 guys are willing to put them over, and that's why.
Yep. So the next match was David Finlay and Juice Robinson against Gato and Hiroki Goto, with Finlay getting the pin on Gato. Not all that surprising that, especially with Gato being in there, that Finlay and Juice got the pin. The one thing, and you've been watching like the more recent stuff, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that a nickname that Juice got just now, or because, I mean, like I told you before we went on air, the last thing I watched before the show was the New Beginning and Sapporo shows, so I didn't watch anything beyond that, or I didn't have the chance to, but I didn't hear him being called flamboyant anywhere.
It's more of a newer thing that they've kind of done, right? It's not anything, from my understanding now. Sean or Paul may come on here and say, Gary, you don't know what you're talking about, which could be very much the truth. But from the recent stuff that I've watched, for my understanding, it is a newer gimmick kind of thing. He's being more flamboyant. He's having a little bit more fun with everything, and it's kind of a cool thing to see him in a different light, right? He's kind of throwing himself into a new gimmick that I think a lot of the Japanese fans are really digging. I think that they kind of enjoy it, and it's kind of to me, if you ask me, a little bit of a homage to HBK.
Yeah.
Some of the what he was doing there really felt like HBK all the way, and I think it's good. I think it's smart on his part to do that, and it's not exactly my favorite thing in the world, but I still feel like it's something that's going to get him somewhere.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. Next match.
Well,
what?
I'm sorry to cut you off. I didn't even think about talking about that matchup, but I do want to say I love what they had here with Juice, and of course what they had going here, Finlay and all that. I think they did a really great job. They really showcased them very well, and Gato and Goto, they just They just do it every time, man.
Oh, yeah.
They really put on a great effort. I think this matchup was very well, noted as being just a hard-working match. Once again, it really reminds me of the starting match here. Just hard work put into it, but it's more about what you get with Juice and Finlay, right? Those guys are the ones that they want to show off. They're showcasing them really, really well. It's a great also opportunity for New Japan to show some of these guys off in the U.S., and that's what they're doing here.
I mean, I know that Japan, it's a lot different and whatnot, and I know they're both getting up there in age, but and I know New Japan fans are probably going to kill me for saying this, but I want to see Gato and Jado get another run at some point.
Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
So the next match we got is another tag match between Chucky T and Toru Yano and KES Killer Elite Squad, Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Lance Archer, with Lance Archer getting the pin on Chucky T. This match was a lot of fun, just to see Toru Yano try to get in the ring, and I think it was Archer keep on continuing to run him off. And then he finally gets in and does his thing, which is always hilarious and entertaining to watch.
It's all about Yano.
Oh, yeah, of course. One of my favorite matches, and like people always talk about like, all the technical matches and everything, and how technical New Japan is. I think my favorite match of the G1 this past year was Yano versus Omega when they kept on tying each other up.
Yes, that was a great. Oh my God! Oh, can't get enough of that. That people always joke about here in the U.S. about Woken Matt Hardy acting like some kind of cartoon character. Yano does the same thing. He's a cartoon character.
Well, that's the biggest irony to me about the difference between New Japan and WWE is that WWE, they keep on saying, "Oh, we're sports entertainment." We're not wrestling, and try to play, they try to distance themselves from wrestling. They try to distance themselves from being realistic and everything. Yet, at the same time, they take themselves so seriously and make everything so serious. Whereas Japan, in Japan, kayfabe is still alive and well and everything, yet they have no problem with, like, funny, campy gimmicks and matches, like a Yano match, or, some of the things that Suzuki does with the Young Lions and stuff.
Oh yeah,
It's
hilarious.
or Lance Archer and Davey Boy Smith. Well, it's mostly Lance Archer spitting on people, or Izuka, running around like a madman in the crowd.
I just dig it. I'm sorry,
Oh,
I
yeah.
just love it, man.
Oh, so do
It's
I.
too funny. So
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yano's a genius at the comedy. I think he did a great job in this match, and it kind of felt like it was all about him, and that's fine with me. They really put on a great, entertaining match. I think, Chuck E. T is Chuck E. T, and people love to watch the guy. And the Killer Elite Squad, they do their thing too here, and I love the fact that they still got the victory, but it wasn't for the fact that there were times in this matchup I didn't think they were going to do it. I thought somehow they were going to lose, but yeah, I mean, to me, it was just a fun, entertaining match. I think this is the one time I'll say that I laughed several times during this match, but and still enjoyed it, and I felt very good about it at the end.
Well, that happens in a lot of New Japan matches. I mean, especially with Yano. But, like I said, it's so ironic that, it's treated as a more legitimate sport, yet a lot of their matches are a lot more comedic than you would ever see in WWE. And if they ever did try to pull something like that in WWE, everyone would absolutely destroy it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So the next match is a crazy one at that. Cody and Marty Scurll going over Tongaloa and Tamatanga, with Cody hitting Crossroads on Tongaloa. This match started off with them saying, "We're not going to have a match." And then Cody pissed off, I think it was Tamatanga. Who started it all and attacking Cody, and then the fight was on.
Yeah, it was. And, I love that they did have Cody come out here and talk. This was a nice moment for the whole storyline that we kind of go through basically throughout the night about the Bullet Club, right? This is a big theme of what's going on with the Bullet Club and how are they, reacting to all these different situations that they're put into. And Cody even says, hey, the booking is screwed up because we should never face each other here. But, it's true that the Tongans feel like, hey, whatever they put us is where we need to be. And if the fans want it, we're going to do it. So I appreciated that. I love the emotion involved in this match, too, because you really do have Cody running scared a lot. You have, Marty Scurll, who is just excellent at playing that confused heel. Like he doesn't know what to do. He's like, I'm a little confused, but he does not mind screwing you over in the end as he acts like he's confused. And what really the storyline though was that, it's all about Cody and Cody trying to be the guy, even though he's not really wanting to face up to the consequences. And they get this victory and, for what it is. But I love the emotion that's put into here. The Tongans really are put in bad situations at times, despite the fact that they're so powerful. And it wounds out to be a really interesting story. I love the idea that you have, Cody winning that way, that the Tongans kind of go out like, I don't know what happened. What happened for us to lose? They're kind of lost on that. And of course, the crowd reactions too in this. I mean, you get a chance to see that crowd really kind of get behind the Tongans.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, F you, Cody, on several occasions, which he said, oh, they're chanting Team Cody.
Oh, yeah.
That was awesome. So I think it's just really entertaining too. I enjoyed the matchup. I love the story, and I think the story is, to me, what really mattered here.
Did you see his press conference afterwards with him saying he doesn't want to wrestle in California again?
Yes.
So we'll see how that turns out come July.
I know, right? So I'm sure he'll be back, of
But
course.
yeah,
But
this whole Bullet Club thing has been great. And that's probably gonna be the biggest and best storyline in all of wrestling for 2018. And you don't really know exactly how it's gonna go because there are a number of ways that it could potentially go.
yeah, and you're totally right. And you make sure if you have not watched that post-match interview with Cody Rhodes, you go do that as soon as you get done with this podcast because it's hilarious.
Oh yes, it is, especially when Don Callis comes out.
Oh boy, no, that was great too.
So the next match we've got is an 8-man tag match between Los Ingobernables. I can't roll my R's or my G's. De Japón versus Taguchi Japan +1 plus Dragon Lee. With Naito getting the pin on Taguchi following a Destino. Pretty much what you expect. Like we talked about, 8-man tag match, nothing, too huge. Honestly surprised Hiromu did not come out with Daryl because, could you imagine the pop he would have gotten with Daryl?
Oh boy, I know. Oh, the people would have loved it. They would have chanted it. They were probably afraid that Jim Ross would forget that Daryl, what his name was, so they didn't bring him out. So
yeah, you're probably right.
But you're right, and Hiromu, man, he took a beating in this match. Yeah. A beating. But I think it was great. I really love the energy in this match. I know it was, kind of your standard 8-man tag, but they had so much energy. It was full of hard hitting. It was, flipping. It was all about playing the mind games. It had everything in this matchup, and it's because of the talent. They just had so much talent involved in this one match, and a lot of the guys getting a chance to switch in and here and there, and it to me it felt just right. I don't know how to say it really honestly any better than that. It felt just right. I think they really focused on some of these big feuds, and they did a good job of it. They didn't really shortchange you. So the guys that are feuding actually got a chance to interact with each other and really get some big hits in here. At the end here, though, my boy Naito getting the victory only makes sense. I was really happy with that. But I'll be honest with you, I really felt like this could have went either way, Brandon, and I think I would have walked away happy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I liked both teams, so I would have been fine with either team winning. Big question moving forward, though, is, Naito is on a winning streak, but he's kind of stuck in limbo right now, where, he's not, he lost against Okada, and, does he really want to go after another title to destroy?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I would be fine. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would be perfectly fine with it. I would love to see him destroy the Never Openweight title or something like that. I want to see him start doing that. That was great a couple of years ago, just watching him kick the Intercontinental title around.
I loved him trying to sell or trade it for a sushi roll.
That was great.
Oh, it was amazing. So you're right. I would love it, just to see him do something different, to have something that really matters. But I think at the moment right now, they're really trying to configure things out at the top, and they've really, had to kind of put him on the back burner as it is.
I just don't know who can. If Naito can't do it, who are they going to get to beat Okada?
Yeah, I know. I really don't know. That's a great question. I think Naito has to do it. I don't know if it's this soon, but I just kind of feel like Naito has to be that guy. And until that happens, I just wish they could get Chris Jericho back involved in Naito. I want to see that happen sometime.
I want to see that match too, because they set it up and then nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So the next match, before this match, we get Rey Mysterio coming out, talking about how he's disappointed in himself that he, disappointed the fans and got injured, and said that he's going to be back in New Japan and, he is going to have a match, what do you think? Do you think that kind of puts the WWE rumors aside, or do you think he could potentially do both a la Chris Jericho?
I think he could do both. And why I say that is for what Vince's response to Jericho was, and that is everybody knows you as a WWE guy. And, sure, Mysterio was in WCW. He's been a part of other promotions, Lucha Underground. But let's be honest. When you look at him, you still think of Booyaka, Booyaka, 619, right? And you think of all his stuff, his great accomplishments with WWE. And I think Vince McMahon is going to see the same thing. He's going to see the dollar signs. He's going to see, hey, we can have Rey Mysterio at SummerSlam doing something huge, and then him popping back over to New Japan to have a big match. And guess what? All those New Japan fans are going to want to tune in to see Mysterio on WWE television.
Mm-hmm. We'll see how that goes, and then we get the match between Liger and Ospreay, which is won by Ospreay with an Os Cutter. And then Ospreay calls out Mysterio and says, hey, I want to face you. And I think he put up his title, correct?
You know what? He may have. Right now, as I'm thinking about it, I can't remember, to be honest with you, but I think he would. I think he would put the title on the line. It only makes sense.
Yeah. So, this was a good match.
Mm-hmm.
Liger,
you're right.
It's crazy that Liger is still going at the speed that he is, and he's the same age as Undertaker.
53 years old.
Yeah.
Isn't that man? It's amazing to know that this guy is doing it at that age. And, I really feel like this is not the end of the road for him for sure. Mm-hmm. We know he's probably going to be doing this a little bit longer. It wouldn't surprise me if he didn't make 60 years old and still wrestling.
I said it before. I said it on a group, and this, I don't know how they would feel about this over in Japan, because of Liger's history and everything. But I wouldn't have a problem at all with them doing with Liger what they did with Tiger Mask.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, honestly. I would have no problem having someone different underneath that mask. But, they may look at this as a different situation. Yeah. But I agree with you. It would be a great, situation because it could last many, many generations.
Yeah, you could create Jushin Thunder Liger number 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. But, there may be a reason why they don't. I don't know.
Yeah. But we'll see what happens with that. It is going to be disappointing when a lot of these older guys, are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Liger, Nagata,
Yeah, it's going to be a big, big bummer. But I think for right now, I'm so happy that we're getting a chance to see him now. And like this matchup with Will Ospreay, just a totally inspiring match because, you look at it and say this guy is giving his all and he's this old and he's putting in this kind of work. And I think these guys put on a great show.
Oh, yeah.
I just think they did. It's hard to have a bad Will Ospreay match, but I just think that, once again, you got to be proud. And Will Ospreay was exactly what I think a lot of people would be, and that is honored to be in that same ring. So this was really solid. This was also about Rey Mysterio, too. So I think all the way around it was good stuff.
Yeah. One spot that was pretty fun, but which was a great spot, was Ospreay kind of landed awkwardly on his knee, I think, and then proceeded to immediately hit an enziguri.
Oh, yes.
he acted like he was injured for a second and then hits an enziguri.
Psych! And then bam. Yeah. I like that. So it was great. It was just a lot of fun to watch, and I think that's great. Yeah. And you know what? Even the post-match stuff was kind of interesting, and I really dug it. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah. So did I. So the next match we got is a tag match between Tomohiro Ishii and Kazuchika Okada against Zack Sabre Jr. and Minoru Suzuki, with Sabre Jr. getting the pin on Ishii. Not the pin, got him to tap out with an armbar.
This was a gutsy matchup.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this was a matchup that really just took it out of you watching it. I don't know about you, Brandon, but as I was watching it, I was getting very tired. Not because I was bored, but because of the effort put in.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
wear
these
down.
are some of the guys that can go the hardest. I mean, Ishii and Suzuki both are just bruisers, and Okada's, a technician, and then Sabre Jr. has the speed. But also, with him being in Suzuki-gun, he's gotten much more brutal as of late.
Yeah, you're right about that. And that's what was so interesting about this matchup overall. And I really found myself enthralled in it. I really was, to be honest with you, kind of happy to see that, Zack Sabre Jr. and Suzuki won this matchup for the fact that, the New Cup winner, New Japan Cup winner, and losing would be kind of weird. I think it's great that he won. And then, of course, Suzuki's, Suzuki, my God, the killer. So, I mean, to me, I think it was a good matchup. I think they did a great job. Really happy with that. And the end result made sense to me. It really did. So, I think it's good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Next match was the only title match on the card, as Jay White put up the IWGP US title up against Hangman Page. Jay White retained with a Blade Runner and a pin. This was a really good match, and I was thinking, there were some moments where I was thinking Hangman may pull it out, but Jay White was able to retain, and we'll see where things go with the U.S. title moving forward.
I agree, and Hangman Page, I was so glad that he was one of the people that got an opportunity for that U.S. title. I'm really, really happy. It makes all the sense in the world. Hangman's a big name in the States. He just, let's be honest, has really showcased himself very well to the American audience, and I think the audiences around the world, and even in Japan. So I was really thrilled to see him in this matchup, and I think he did an excellent job. I think both him and Jay White really put on a good performance here. Once again, this was very physical. It was really emotional because of the feud that they had, and the fact that you knew Hangman was given every single thing he had in this matchup to get the victory, and it just did not work out in his favor. But I mean, to me, if you ask me right now, I think this match just builds on these guys, and to me, it earned them more money. I really feel that way.
Yeah, this was definitely a very good match. I just, we'll see where this goes, because it's funny. I think Hangman Page brought it up. He's like, the first two champions of the U.S. title have been a Canadian and a New Zealander.
That's true.
What's wrong with this picture?
It is true. So I mean that's the way it works sometimes, though, in those titles. But I got to give it to you, like I said, to both guys, because I mean Hangman Page is really making his name bigger and better. I think every time he gets in the ring, and I think the same for what you get with everything that Jay White's got going. So I mean I'm looking forward to these guys having another big matchup down the line and apply for maybe even for a bigger title.
Yeah, I could see that. I definitely think Jay White has a bright future ahead of him. Next match is the main event with Golden Lovers facing off against the Young Bucks. Kenny Omega gets the pin on Matt after a golden trigger, and this was an insane match. That's all you can really say about this match.
Yeah, I'll just say it this way: watching this match and just really sitting down to enjoy it, and it ended up being everything I wanted it to be. Halfway into it, I took my shirt off and ran around the room, going, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And to my wife,
there were so many spots that you were just thinking, "Oh, this has to be it. This has to be it."
Oh yeah, and you know what? I always say on this podcast, if you want a money match, you just put the Bucks in, and it's a money match. It's one that people want to watch, they want to care about, and they get excited. This was one of those matches where it had every single thing you wanted, Brandon. It gave you action. it gave you, violence. It not only gave you that, but it also gave you so much energy, emotion,
Mm-hmm.
and the biggest thing here, a story, and they
Oh yeah.
told it. They told it so very well. You couldn't have done a better job than they did on this, and I was really loving it. Kota Ibushi is a really super great talent,
Oh yeah.
and he's a guy that people would normally focus on in a matchup. He was involved in a lot of this matchup, but he was not the main part of the story. He was a piece of the puzzle, but not the main
Yeah.
part of the story. Even though he took a lot of beating in
Oh
this,
yeah.
um, I
This
just
was
love Kenny
mostly
Omega.
about Kenny and how he was feeling throughout this whole thing.
Exactly, and they did a great job, especially with him and Matt. Just that
Mm-hmm.
whole interaction, and they really did a great job of Matt's back being an issue
Mm-hmm.
and really selling that he just couldn't even handle it at times. But that adrenaline would get to him, and he would do all the things in the world
Yeah.
that he wanted to do, and then he would fail again because his
Yeah.
back failed. I think to the bitter end, this was greatness. I was so happy with it. I don't know if I'm going to say this was going to be match of the year for
Yeah.
2018, but I think it's in a conversation.
Oh, it's
At
definitely
least.
in the conversation already, but I mean, we talked about it before. This whole thing between everyone in the Bullet Club is far from over.
Oh yeah.
And there are multiple ways you can go with this. It's not like, I mean the one, I mean the the kind of, not really self-explanatory, but the obvious choice and probably the best choice overall, especially for the fans and for New Japan as well, is to have Cody just continue on this power hunger rampage that he's been on, and then Kenny kind of reconnecting the pieces that have been broken with him and the rest of the Bullet Club, and have Kenny have a match against Cody for control of the Bullet Club and have Kenny win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And then
definitely.
bring Coda in as well as part of the Bullet Club.
Yeah, I mean, there's those things that to consider, and I think that the future is going to be really interesting for all this stuff going on in the Bullet Club, and I think there's so much that comes out of this, but I think what I really got out of this more than just even the story with the Bullet Club, the fact that Kenny Omega is so ingrained in everything that they've been doing. And for this relationship to be what it is right now on the rocks, it just really boggles our mind, because they kept mentioning on the show, this Bullet Club has made so much money. They're still making money. What's going to happen from here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What's going to take place after this whole thing kind of falls out of grace, and Kenny Omega is going to have to do his own thing, and everybody else is going to have to do their own thing.
Well, that's the thing.
Fun.
That's the crazy thing. If they do decide to if it does end up where the Bullet Club completely dissolves, all the shirts, all of the chants, all of the things that Bullet Club basically has become the go-to for every smark in the world. I mean, you hear it at WWE events now. You hear the Terminator beats. You hear the Too Sweet Whoop Whoops. Even over the last year and a half, 2 years since Marty Scurll joined Bullet Club, it's just gotten bigger and bigger. It just keeps on growing.
You're right. You're exactly right. And, they've done a lot with it, and it's been something special. And I think they have to figure out this crossroads. Is it going to
Mhm.
continue to be something special, or does it have to
Pun
dissolve?
intended.
Yeah, pun intended. For sure. I know, right?
I
Oh, I
had to
love
call
it.
you out for that one.
I'm glad you did, because I didn't even think of it, to be honest with you. So, oh man, but yes, I mean, what a great main event. I mean, definitely the best match on the card.
Oh yeah.
Something that had, I mean, everything you want in a big match.
And
So,
we didn't even talk about the aftermath.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and talk about it.
Afterwards, Cody comes out and is berating Nick and Matt for losing. I think he pushes them or something.
Push Matt down.
Yeah, and that brings Kenny. I forget if Coda came with him.
No, he was already in the back.
Okay, so it was just Kenny out there. Pushes aside Cody, gets in his face, basically sends Cody packing, and then offers a handshake to Nick, and he accepts, and then offers a handshake to Matt, and he does not. So things are not completely reconciled. The one thing that I was thinking about when this happened at the end was, and I don't think this will happen because, they're just making way too much money and, they'd be stupid to do it. But crazier things have happened in wrestling, with very popular factions and tag teams. But what if Nick and Matt have a falling out?
You know what? I've thought of that too, and I can't lie. I had that same thing cross my mind, and I'm not up on the Young Bucks history. I don't know if they've ever had that situation breakdown for them, but I think for many people they would find it interesting, but I don't know that they would love it. I really don't, because I think the money part of this is the fact that these guys have such great chemistry together, and they bring this nice, fun package. When you bring them and you separate them, it's not exactly what you thought you were buying.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. If it does happen, well, then they must have some other things in mind, and one of them is not making money.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I completely agree with that. They're gonna have to, that's why I say I think the obvious choice here is that this is gonna end up having a Kenny versus Cody match with Kenny winning and reclaiming Bullet Club.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're just making way too much money with all the Bullet Club stuff that you're not just gonna throw it away like that.
I agree with you, and I think also part of the aftermath is going to be Kenny Omega telling the Bullet Club that, hey, we're together, but, if you want to focus on other things besides just the club, you can.
Yeah.
And so it's no longer going to be, hey, here come the Tongans, they're the Bullet Club. It's going to be, these are the Tongans.
Yeah.
And then when the Bullet Club needs them, they'll come.
Yeah, exactly. So. But I do think we will get a Bullet Club +1.
Yeah. Hey, that would be fine with me. Kota Ibushi, part of it would be kind of neat.
Oh, yeah. And you'd get your second Japanese member of Bullet Club ever.
Yeah, they're very, very true. So, but yeah, I mean, we'll follow this story. It's very, very interesting, and I'm really looking forward to what they bring to us in the near future.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, Brandon, overall, we got to rate this thing, man. What did you think this thing deserved?
I don't want to give it too much credit, but I'll kind of split the difference. I'll give it a 9.5.
Oh wow!
It was a great show, and not only that. Granted, this isn't most new. I mean, it's kind of bad. It's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. But you don't really see this kind of storyline based stuff in most New Japan shows. but you saw a lot of storyline progression and a lot of, outside of the ring type stuff on this show, and it was fun to watch. It was fun to see.
Yeah, I agree with you. And
at the same time, with even with that, you still got the extraordinary in-ring stuff that you normally get with a New Japan show.
Yeah, definitely. And, looking at this whole entire show, to me, it really felt like that they were bringing the best that they could bring at the moment while they're still trying to tell stories. And they have really heated up some of these feuds, even just through this show alone. I think that's great. I think it's really interesting. I'm going to go with the 8. I feel like they came with a strong performance for most of these matches, but there were some that were just kind of there. And some performances that I thought were okay, but not at the peak level that they may have been. But man, the main event was amazing. I loved Jay Wyatt's match. There's just so much that you could honestly write down and say I love this, I love this, I love this, and not as many dislikes in this show as I thought there could be. So really, really happy with it. I think they did an excellent job. I can't wait till next year to see what they do, at least for this kind of a show.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean that pretty much wraps up our show tonight. We've had a lot of fun. We've definitely got into some of these news topics and talked Strong Style Evolved. It's been a lot of fun. And I just wanted to give a big shout out to Brandon. Thank you so much for covering Strong Style Evolved with me tonight and doing the whole show, man. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, and whenever I'm needed, I'm always around.
Yeah, and he did a great job, and we appreciate it. He's also producing, and make sure people give him the respect that he deserves for that, too. I didn't throw that out there. He's producing for us tonight, too. So he's got a full hand in this, the whole thing going down, to be honest with you. So, but,
I can mute you.
I know, he can't. He's got all the power, guys. So he could just do the show by himself while I'm just over here talking to nothing. So.
I'm He-Man.
Yeah. I'll try not to beat the skull. But yeah.
No, that's Harriet's and Maya's joke. He always comes up with a nickname. He always does something where like I'm the Skeletor to his He-Man or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you're my Negan to my Rick. Here we are. But we've had a great time tonight, and I hope everybody's enjoyed it. Of course, come join myself and Sean and maybe even Brandon on Thursday's show. We're going to have a really great time. We're going to do some more news topics and, of course, breaking down some other things in the world of wrestling. You're not going to want to miss part 2. And don't forget to go and subscribe, rate, and review over at Wrestling to the Max on the W2M Network. Once you do that, you'll get all of our great content and a lot more. Heck, just subscribe to the network and get all the other great shows that we have to offer. I mean, there's so much to look at, so much to check out, all the great review shows, all the other great, subjects that we cover over there at W2Mnet.com, like sports. We also have video games along with entertainment besides wrestling. So lots of great stuff that you're not going to want to miss a minute of the action on. So go check out that. Don't forget, like I said, rate and review. Please do me a favor. Go check out W2Mnet.com as well as 411mania.com and Last Word on ProWrestling.com. All have great things for you to go check out. Great articles, great podcasts. Trust me, so much you don't want to miss out on. Please go do that too. But, we've got to get out of here, and we thank you once again for joining us. Until we catch you guys next time, he's Brandon Biskobing. I'm Gary Vaughan, and we will catch you guys down the road.